That's a big fish.
Holy, this is ridiculous. Oh, you bent my hook. You can take this. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about my two favorite hooks. These hooks right here are probably my two favorite for one reason, and that one reason is they are really, really strong. I have bent out very few of them, and I have hooked a lot of really big bass on them, and I've tested them out thoroughly. This one is a new one for me. It is the BKK Viper 41 hook. I fish both of these in a variety of sizes, but for this purpose, let's just talk about the hooks in general. This hook right here is the Owner ST66. So the Owner ST66 has been around for a while, and I've fished this really hard on all my big bass plugs. I know they're really expensive, and people do complain about how they, from time to time, will rust a little bit, but if you, for the most part, rinse your plugs off, if you've been swimming with them, and you put your plugs either in a dry environment and not store them in your tackle plug bag or box or whatever, they don't rust too bad, and I seem to be able to get a pretty long life out of them. So let's start first with the Owner ST66 here. The Owner ST66 is a really thick gauge hook. The reason that this is so durable is because of how thick the hook is, and it really, for like the bigger sizes, it's really hard for a striped bass, which is what I fish for, to bend these out. They're also unbelievably sharp, and they really, like, you gotta be super careful because they'll go right through your hand, no problem. And the good part about that is they also go right through the striped bass or whatever fish you're fishing for. These are awesome. They're a really thick gauge hook. I fish them on a lot of my bigger plugs, and I've had no issues with them on like larger, like 9-inch spooks, or if I've been fishing with big metal lips, I love putting them on my bigger metal lip swimmers. They just have extremely sharp and strong hooks. Like, they are just an extremely strong and sharp hook, which is awesome because that's what you really want. I mean, it's one thing to have a really strong hook, and it's another thing to have a really strong and sharp hook. And so the fact that it has the best of both worlds there is huge for me. The one issue I've always had with the Owner ST66s is the fact that they weigh so much. So in order to match what I would say a generic hook brand like the VMC hooks that come on the majority of saltwater lures that you buy, in order to match it, you have to go down quite a bit in size in order to match the weight of the like VMC hook that would come stock on a lot of your plugs. So that's why this plug, or this hook rather, especially when it gets down to the like 3.0, 2.0 size, like, and then especially everything under like 2.0, it's tough. I mean, it's a little bit too heavy. They do bend. Like, I have hooked some big bass on like smaller pencils with the Owner SD66s, and I've had them bend. I haven't had them break, and I haven't lost any fish because they fully bent out, but they do hold up remarkably well. The other hook that I really have been enjoying is the BKK Viper hooks, and this is the BKK Viper 41. They are really sharp and really strong, but the thing that makes this hook stand out to me so much is the fact that it is a thinner gauge hook, and which allows the hook to be a little bit lighter, and it helps when you're trying to downscale and put this on like a smaller pencil. So I can even throw on my 6-inch pencils that I fish a ton, I will use a 3.0 sized hook. And that is really awesome. Instead of having to downsize to like a 2.0 owner, I can just use the 3.0 BKK, which is similar in size to the VMCs that I would be throwing on there anyway. And they have a little bit longer shank to the hook, and they're really durable. And I was extremely surprised. I put them to the max test I could imagine doing, which is where I was fishing for monster bluefish. There was a blitz this fall. I was fishing and the bluefish were absolutely enormous. I'm talking all of the bluefish were between 13 and probably 18 pounds. Like, they were absolute tanks. And I put these hooks to the test with fishing lockdown drag, and I only bent them a little bit. I'd also only bent these a little bit on my bigger 9-inch spooks with 40-pound class fish. So really, really big bass pulling a lot of drag will bend these out a little bit. But again, if they didn't bend it to a point where I was dropping or losing any fish, but they were getting compromised when I was hooking into a lot of my larger fish that I was catching. Still, worlds better than a VMC. See, that's the thing, like, everything is not gonna be perfect. And when I first encountered that, I was fishing in Florida for tarpon, and I was bending out on every single jig head that I threw. And I realized right then and there, not every hook, like, there's gonna be a piece of your tackle that is not gonna be is gonna be the weak point, is what I'm trying to say. There's gonna be a part of your tackle that's the weak point. And I would say for the most part, for me, it's always the hooks. And treble hooks especially are a hard thing to get to the point that, like, you can put max pressure and stop a fish without them bending. Like, they are always seeming to be the weak point. So to be able to get a hook that is, one, really sharp, and two, won't bend when I'm putting a serious amount of pressure into it. And if it does, it doesn't bend too much to where I'm gonna be dropping fish left and right. And that's really what it comes down to for me. So I'm not saying these hooks are gonna solve all your problems. I'm saying out of all the hooks that I fished, I really, really, really like having sharp hooks. I mean, everyone knows this. If you have really sharp hooks and a big bass swings at your plug and just like tries to like barely grab it, they're gonna get hooked. Where if your hooks are dull and a bass or any other fish for that matter goes after your plug and it barely hits the hooks, then you might, I mean, the hook's not gonna penetrate the fish if it's dull enough. I mean, there's been many times where I've fished plugs that have really dull hooks because you hit a rock or something with them and they got bent, the tips are bent, and you have a big fish grab it and then you drop it or it just doesn't get hooked and you're like, what the hell happened? That's because probably had a bent tip to them. But these hooks right here, when they're sharp, they're so needle sharp. I mean, it's unbelievable, both of them for that matter. So for me, what I'm looking for in a hook is something that's really sharp and really powerful. To me, the Owner ST66, if you're gonna fish a really big plug that it doesn't compromise the hook doesn't compromise the action of the plug, then I would go with the Owner ST66, because to me, everything over 3.0 size in the Owner ST66, I mean, it's gotta be a pretty damn big fish to bend. And I find, especially once you get like 4.0 plus, like it's crazy. I mean, they're tuna grade hooks basically at that point. You're not bending them out, especially with like bass, the striped bass that we catch, which, you know, maximum weight, they're getting up to, you know, 50, 60 pounds. And that's ridiculous. You're never gonna, I mean, you rarely hook a fish like that. And I would still be surprised if it was able to bend out one of these hooks. And if you're trying to fish lighter plugs where the action can be really impeded, small spooks, pencils, anything that the action can be pretty impeded by the weight of the hook, I would go with the BKK Viper hooks, the Viper 41s. Those are the ones that I've been fishing, trading back and forth, and it's all based on the plug itself that I'm fishing. As I've been saying, like, obviously the most important thing is to be able to keep that action on the plug, because it doesn't matter how strong your hooks are. If you don't get the bite, you're missing opportunities at fish. And I've been there where you're hooking really big bass and you're almost scared for your tackle because you don't have confidence in one part of your tackle. And that's the worst feeling ever, to have confidence, or to not have the lack of confidence in a piece of your tackle, because when you're hooked into a big fish, that should be the furthest thing from your mind. So if you want to pick these up, go to the link in my bio. It's going to take you to Fisherman's Source, and you can pick these up right now on their website. Really quick and easy shipping, and they're awesome to deal with. So if you want to pick up these hooks right here, these are the two hooks that I use all the time on almost all of my plugs. So go to the link in my description to pick them up now. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.